Uh, Among the objectives, the main objectives of public diplomacy is the promotion of national culture, including scientific and technological achievements. Why? Because nations, they want to give impacts on public opinion of their counterparts and to build credibility through cultural exchanges. Cultural and public diplomacy merge in the concept of power, which, according to Joseph Ney, is the ability to achieve one's purpose or goals and the ability to get others to do what they otherwise would not to do. This power has two faces, two Janus faces. Is the hard power is countries' economic and military ability to buy and coerce, and the soft power is the ability to attract through cultural and ideological appeal. These two faces merge to one, and this is what most big nations now want to have, the smart power. This is probably very familiar here, but it wasn't a few years ago, because in 2010, David Miliband, the former UK Foreign Affairs Secretary, said to the 305th anniversary of the Royal Society, the scientific world is becoming interdisciplinary, but the biggest interdisciplinary leap we need is across the boundaries of politics and science. And he said, he expressed his hope that the Royal Society opens eyes, not just to how far science has come, but what we can do together in the future. In the same year, American scientists and politicians in an appeal in San Diego in 2010 declared that we believe President, the administration, and Congress should elevate the role of science diplomacy in the US national security and foreign policy. And the end, we should make maximum use of a core strength of this country's science diplomacy. Scientists, politicians, and diplomats are not obvious partners. However, scientists and politicians supporting international concentration have a long history. To start with Philip Solman, who in 1723 was the Foreign Secretary of the Royal Society. He wrote, "Royal Society is using science to rise above military conflict and political and cultural differences. My post was instituted in 1723, nearly 60 years before British government appointed its first Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs." Joseph Needham, a well-known sinologue, was a scientist who promoted the International Science Cooperation Service, and he lobbied that natural science came within the mandate of UNESCO. The Russell-Einstein Manifesto is well known. It was published in 1951, and the American philanthropist Cyrus Seaton sponsored the conference in Poor Gas in Nova Scotia in 1957, and this movement was recognized with the Nobel Prize in 1995. There are in the past also many instrumental organizations and politicians who promoted science diplomacy. Not forget NATO. In 1957, they created the science program. CERN, in 1954, it was created by 12 nations, European nations, now 20. And scientists for 610 universities and research institutes are now using its installation. The effort of US National Academy of Science and the late Soviet Academy of Science in the 80s was very important because they ran parallel committees on international security and arms control. And also the effort of the EU to create the science and technology framework programs and Erasmus programs was a very important. So if we can define, who are not diplomats, what science diplomacy is the use of scientific collaborations among nations to address common problems and to build constructive international partnerships. How actually science can contribute to foreign policy objectives. We can recognize three dimensions, and these are dimensions of science and technology and innovation cooperation. The first one is science and diplomacy, is to implement and provide foreign policy objectives with scientific advice. The second dimension is called diplomacy for science, and it seeks to facilitate international science cooperation. And the third is science for diplomacy, which is using science cooperation to improve international relations between countries. We can exemplify these three dimensions. The first one, the best paradigm, is IPCC, is the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change. It was established in 1988 by UNEP and WMO in order to provide the world with a clear scientific view of climate change problem and the consequence in view of political and environmental and socioeconomic issues. Diplomacy for science is comprising all the operation in international cooperation, where in pursuit of top-down strategic priorities for research or bottom-up collaboration between individual scientists and researchers. And the third one, science for diplomacy, is one of the most effective tools and ways for strong countries like US, UK, France, Germany, to influence and assist other nations and create real bridges between each other, taking into account, however, their national priorities. Why countries and their such communities enter into cross-border STI cooperation? There are some rationale. I can give the example of the EU. One is science and technology community has a strong influence on the direction of contents of cross-border STI partnership. And another one is the wide set of policy objectives influence patterns of ST collaboration between EU member states and also EU member states, non-EU countries and third countries. The interest of this cooperation is growing in many countries and all over the world, and there are some reasons because of the BRIC countries and especially China. There is a political debate which is increasing ever and ever about the urgency of global challenges such as climate change, health issues, and sustainable energy resources, and then the globalization of research and development. And also another issue is the worldwide mobility of researchers. We can see what means that for the European Union. Because of the demographic development in its countries and the decreasing share of its graduates in science engineering, EU countries are seeking through STI collaboration to attract talent from partner countries. Now, due to the crisis in the south countries of Europe, a lot of, let's say, young southern talents are moving to the North European countries. To categorize is not always good, but sometimes it's real. And there are two paradigms that we can define for this cooperation. The first is called narrow STI cooperation, and the other one is the broad research cooperation. The driver for the first is because we want to improve the national quality and critical mass in science and research by linking our own resources and knowledge with those of other countries. And the broad cooperation is that no science policy objectives interact with intrinsic oriented ones in order to reach other policy ends. There are some countries that they have been pioneers in the past in doing scientific diplomacy, like Switzerland. With a collaboration of their diplomatic services and educational services, they created the so-called Swiss NECs, who are very good networks in important places of science, technology, emerging or classical and non, like Boston, San Francisco, Singapore, Shanghai, and Bangalore. What the Swiss did, they tried to seek partnership with the best, because this is a very important issue. Germany is following the example of Switzerland now, and they have created something, they call it German House of Research and Innovation in New York, Sao Paulo, Moscow, New Delhi, and Tokyo. And what they tries to promote Germany as a research location. So what is the role of the universities in science diplomacy? They are very important players, and they are involved in different types of activities. High-level research partnership is one, technology and innovation cooperation, capacity building, international branch campuses, and their government-funded or private universities are doing a lot of work, of the big countries, of course, and not only to help the countries in their diplomatic effort, but also because of their own interest. One of the involvement is the international branch campuses. We count up to now about 200 all over the world. 37 are scheduled to open now, but there are a lot of these efforts that fall, don't continue. About half of these universities are in the US, and this is not only because they are part of this diplomacy, because they look at a financial game. And if we take an article that came in the New York Times 1 year ago with the title "A Generation Hobbled by the Soaring Cost of College," we will see that there are many problems in a big country like the United States. The students are borrowers, and the current balance of federal student loans nationwide is $1 trillion. So some people, they talk about the bubble of education in the United States, so that creates some problems for universities to find students, and they try to find students abroad. However, it has not been always very successful. I have some examples. Harvard closed 2 establishments in China and Switzerland. Carnegie Mellon shut down a campus in Greece. Michigan State started with a very ambitious project in Dubai, but it didn't work very well. So with the crisis of universities, some people speak that all these campuses will be the first to be cut. I would like to just to finish with an example for Greece, for our university. You know, as the World Finance have their own agencies, academia have all their Fitch or Standard & Poor's, and this is the agency of the ranking of universities. The University of Crete is, for a second consecutive year, within the crisis, among the best young universities. It's only 35 years old. Our country doesn't really have a clear scientific policy, and we have to struggle alone to this global environment. So what we did is to use the narrow STI cooperation paradigm, creating partnership with different institutions in different countries, and trying to combine our capabilities with other institutions in order to promote our own research capacities. So I would like to finish and to conclude. Given the multitude of factors involved in implementing science, technology, and innovation collaboration, the variety of drivers, the different starting positions of countries, and the parallel use and bottom-up and more top-down strategies, it's not likely that states can develop a coherent evaluation of indicator framework. Few countries, like Switzerland, have developed a good impact assessment and measurement system to evaluate whether international collaboration policies have the desired effects. And in order to proceed to a better evaluation, we have to start by considering a bottom-line framework and a set key indicator, starting from the narrow paradigm in which universities are the key players. So thank you very much.